What makes something solid, liquid, or gas?
I think how far the molecules are from one another and how freely they can move relative to each other.
You're right that distance and movement matter. What do you think controls how far apart the molecules are and how freely they can move?
The force between the molecules can determine how far apart they are and how freely they can move. I guess that's it. So the farther they are, they pull each other less and they can move freely.
Good thinking about the forces between molecules. Now, what do you think affects how strong those forces are between the molecules?
The types of the molecules and how far away from each other they are, their distance.
You're on the right track with molecule types and distance affecting the forces. But what about the conditions around the molecules, like what happens when you heat something up or cool it down?
When we heat something up, the molecules move faster, they jiggle more, and when we cool them down, they move less, they have less energy.
Exactly. So now you have two key things, the forces pulling molecules together and the energy making them move around. What do you think happens when the moving energy gets stronger than the pulling forces?
So molecules manage to break free from the pulling forces and they go to the freer state. For example, if it's liquid, it goes to gas. They change to gas, and if it's solid, they change to liquid.
Perfect. You've figured out the key idea. It's a balance between the pulling forces and the moving energy. So when something is solid, liquid, or gas, which one is winning in each case?
So in solid, the pulling forces are winning. Um, in liquid, it's hard to say, I guess. I mean, it's clearly in gas, it's clear that the moving energy wins. But in solid, I don't know if we have a winning thing. Maybe the moving energy because they can still freely move. The molecules can still freely move.
You're right about solid and gas. For liquid, think about this. Can liquid molecules move around each other, and do they stay close together or spread out to fill the whole container?
Yeah. So they stay close together to fill out the whole container. So I guess um, the forces between molecules win.
Close. Liquid molecules do stay close together, but they don't fill the whole container. They only fill part of it and take its shape. So, what does this tell you about the balance between forces and movement in liquids?
So I guess the forces between molecules then is the winning force because they stay close together. And yeah.
You're getting there. But remember, in liquids, molecules can slide past each other and move around, unlike in solids where they're stuck in place. What does this suggest about the balance between the forces and movement energy in liquids?
I think when I compare the liquid to solid, I can put my hands through a liquid. That means I can easily break the forces that are between the molecules, but I can't do that with solid. So that suggests that the forces in between the molecules in liquid can easily break if we just increase the movement.
Great observation. So in liquids, the molecules stay close but can move past each other when you apply force. What does this tell you about whether the pulling forces or moving energy is completely winning in liquids?
I think it also depends on what part of the liquid it is. For example, if it's the surface of the liquid, We can say the moving energy. Even in that case, you can't say completely winning, but the fact that we have evaporation at the surface tells us that the moving energy is winning, at least some of the times. But I don't think we can say anything for sure about the balance there.
You're thinking really well about this. You're right that it's not completely one-sided in liquids. So if solids have forces winning, gases have movement winning, and liquids are somewhere in between, what would you say is the overall pattern for all three states?
What do you mean by the overall pattern of all these states?
You've discovered that in solids the pulling forces win, in gases the moving energy wins, and in liquids it's balanced between the two. What does this tell you about what determines whether something will be solid, liquid, or gas?
So the balance between these two forces, the pulling forces, and the moving energy, that can determine whether something is solid or gas or liquid.
Perfect. You figured out the fundamental principle. So now you understand that the state of matter depends on the balance between the forces pulling molecules together and the energy making them move. You've discovered how temperature affects this balance, and how each state represents a different outcome of this competition between forces and motion. Here's some great resources that might help you explore a little more.
So I wanted to talk to people about the different states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas, using water as an example. But I thought first I better be sure that we're all on the same page about what water is made of.
When students are done thinking through the questions posted by their teachers, they can submit their thinking to get instant AI feedback. The feedback is not just on their subject understanding, but also on their thinking process. In both of those areas, it includes both the strengths and areas for improvement. The feedback also includes next steps for growth and a big question to think about. For example, in this case, where the question was, what makes something solid, liquid, or gas, the big question to think about is, if molecules in a solid are just vibrating in place, how do you think solid air fresheners can release smell into the air without melting first?